Right, thank you. And then after that, we'll go on to having two alumni who have already done the DB course at Zurich Laxam to come and present how it was and why it's interesting and worth it. And we'll also have a Q&A in the end of the tonight's session. And any question you might have, just raise your hand or write it in the chat. We'll find a spot for you to get it answered. And actually, I think that's what's it about. But we're very fortunate and happy to have you here, Robina, and to have this for an entire year over the next time, every Thursday. So I think, Robina, it's time for you to present for the next 30 minutes, if you like, or take questions.
Okay, all right, of course.
Go
Thank you so much, Lars. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Zurich. Thank you, everybody here. So, okay. This Discovering Buddhism kind of course, I think it's like 25 years ago, it kind of started, we started using it, and it evolved from the need, obviously, from the need within our organization, you know, of the centers around the world that have been going since the 70s, to have some kind of structured course. Because I think the thing is, the key thing, I think, and this is what I'm stressing all the time, when we think of spiritual teachings, we tend not to think of it as something structured. We tend not to think of it as something you do the simple stuff, the middle stuff, and the most advanced stuff. We know that in our world, we are geniuses. We are brilliant at understanding that when it comes to learning intellectual things, learning experience, learning creative things. I mean, you can't just you've got to have a real structure to learn to know how to play Bach. You know, this is such an obvious thing. Cooking, anything, we all know it automatically. We're brilliant at knowing how to do this. And what's also fascinating about this is really explains to us too, the understanding, which we'll discuss briefly now, and certainly it goes into the course, the understanding of the function of meditation. We so mystify meditation when it comes to understanding spiritual teachings. We lose the plot completely. We have such the weirdest ideas on the planet about what meditate means. So, and I'll discuss this briefly, not here, just this will come. So the thing is, this course, so the thing is, the Buddhist view, okay, when I first heard the teachings from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, when I very first heard any Buddhist teachings at all, I'd read one book, someone would give me a book. Some boy, he stole the book. I remember being very impressed. He stole this book. I was like 19, I think, and he stole this book. I thought he was very nice, you know. He offered me this book, and it had the word Buddha in it. The first time I'd come across the word Buddha. I mean, actually, I'd brought up a Catholic in 1950s Melbourne. You know, what did I know about Buddha? So I remember that was about the only thing. And then I became this radical lefty and wanting to try and find the meaning of life, and in terms of political views, suffering out there in the world, what makes suffering, what causes suffering, blah, blah, blah. So I went through this process myself. And then after about 8 or 10 years of very intensive political activity, I wanted something spiritual again, you know. So I sort of went back to mass and didn't work, and I tried different things and this, that, and I tried, you know, TM, Transcendental Meditation. I remember paying my $80 back then, which is about $4,000 now, to get a mantra. I'm not being sarcastic. They were wonderful people. But I wanted something more. I didn't say to myself, I want a philosophy, but that was what I wanted. I want a structured, I wanted a view. I wanted the view of the universe. I wanted a coherent view of the world, you know. I used to think in my life, what drove me was I wanted freedom, and I wanted truth, right? Freedom meant let me do what I want, when I want, how I want, wherever I want, with nothing holding me back. That's my view of freedom. So anyway, blah, blah. So some circumstances led me, you know, to the teachings of Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe together. It was a 2-month intensive, 1 month intensive Lam Rim course, and then a 1 month intensive course, retreat on the Buddha of Compassion, Chen Reizig, led by Lama Yeshe. So that I fell into the deep end, you know, I fell immediately, and I fell into my Lama's lap. So they were the Lamas that I met. So then, but when I first heard the teachings from Lama Zopa on the so-called Lam Rim, because essentially the Discovering Buddhism is structured around that Tibetan structuring of the teachings of the Buddha from A to Z, you know, but we called it Discovering Buddhism, and it's sort of taught in a slightly different order. But essentially the 13 or whatever it is modules are taking the entire view of the Buddhist path from A to Z and putting it in an orderly way. So that was the thing that when I first heard the Lam Rim, I heard those words, But then I heard Lama Zopa talk. I thought, what is this person talking about? I kept saying to myself, where is the Buddhism here? I mean, I had this cliched idea of Zen and being in the moment or something. I had no idea. You know, we all come with our own misconceptions. So I didn't know what, I mean, I heard Lama Zopa's words, but I didn't have a clue. But I was there, riveted for 1 month, and, you know, I did not move. Normally at the moment I didn't like something, I'd be gone like the wind, you know, but it was really intense. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I couldn't get my head around. I couldn't find a way to begin what he was saying, how to use it. I just did not understand, you know. And that, I think, is the classical response from most of us modern people when we first hear a classical presentation of this Lam Rim, because it was written, in, you know, by Tsongkhapa in the 14th century, based on the needs of Tibetans. So, okay, we're all the same in the end, and that's something I really walked away from those courses. That course, after 2 months, I really walked away with the clear recognition that mind is universal, that we're all the same. It just is different cultural packagings, you know. And so, because of that, because I was listening to Lama Zopa teaching exactly as he would have spoken back in the in the Middle Ages, he would have used a few modern words, but the structuring, the concepts, the way of framing it was completely, of course, based on this structure put there by Tsongkhapa, coming from his teachings, coming back from the Buddha, right back to the Buddha. So of course it was Asian, and of course it was foreign, but I strongly felt if there is universal truth here, if there is truth here beyond culture, beyond male or female, then I have to find it, you know. So that's why I'm here all these years later. I came away fairly convinced that there is some, you know, essential fact, essential truth here. So what helped me see that vividly was Lama Yeshe. It blew my mind, you know. Lama Yeshe had this extraordinary ability from the time he first met Westerners, from the time he first started to learn English, and they both unbelievably kindly first started to learn English. They just knew somehow that in preparation for meeting their students, the vast majority of whom were English, you know, were foreigners. I mean, from Europe and Australia and America and so on, you know. So Lama Yeshe was absolutely astonishing. When I edit his teachings, even now, I'm in tears because of the effort he went to try and describe, to get to the heart of the meaning of it. And I think I always joke and say Lama was sort of born like a hippie. He was not like an ordinary Tibetan. He just understood. He somehow, when the way he learned English, he learned to use words we understood. And I can't stress the outrageousness of that when you understand how traditional and how different the Tibetan way of putting things is, you know, just culturally. It's not the, yeah. So that was astonishing for me, the way Lama talked. And so Lama Zopa would be giving the teachings, and I'd sit there completely confused. And then Lama Yeshe would come in the evenings, and I would sigh with relief. I'd go, thank God, you know, at least that makes sense. Now it's reasonable. I can do this. This is manageable, you know. And we need that. We need to be inspired. So anyway, I stayed. There I was, and here I am all these years later. You know, that's whatever it is, number of years, doesn't matter. And so the key thing that really struck me then was here we are in this point where Buddhism, you know, maybe even from that time, that was the mid-70s. So it was probably 20 years, less than 15 years since they'd come. I met the Lamas 15 years after they came out of Tibet, you know, if I think about it that way, 1959, 1960, 15 years, roughly. So it was still incredibly new in the West. I mean, this course that Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa gave that I went to was in Australia. It was their first tour, their second tour of the West. They met Westerners in the mid-60s, and then Kathmandu, they came to Kathmandu and met more. All these hippies started going to the West, going to Kathmandu, looking for drugs and enlightenment. God knows why we equated those two things, but there's this cliched view, you know. So I never forget that. So anyway, they met their West, and then they moved up to Courtin, like 1960, 61, this amazing hill out of Kathmandu, which is now this miniature little kind of Tibetan town, really, with 500 monks, and just down the road, 500 nuns, all studying and becoming geshis. It's amazing. That was what evolved. But it also at the same time became this dual view, this dual place of serving foreigners, which at the time was mostly Westerners and mostly hippies. So when they met the Lamas, these Westerners, I got off my point there. What was I saying? I was getting to a point. I lost the point there. I'm sorry. What was I saying? The teachings, I had some point to make and I've lost it. I'm sorry. If anybody can remind me, great. Otherwise I'll...
You talked about Courtin and how Lama started the teachings.
Yeah, I understand. I know, but I don't know why I said all that. I don't know. I was leading to a point. I was talking about Lama Yeshe's amazing. Okay, never mind. Lama Yeshe's amazing way of speaking to foreign people, which meant in English, learning. It was quite astonishing, you know. So that's what, anyway, in the course, that's what kept me sustained. And okay, the key point, right. The key point was, for me, I could see that here we were in this place in history, 15 years after they'd come out of Tibet. And if you look at the Tibetan history, it was almost a conscious decision to keep the Dharma isolated there, not isolated, but not polluted. So it retained an incredible integrity all those years on the other side of the Himalayas. I mean, Christians occasionally came to try and convert them. I remember the Catholics in the Middle Ages, the Jesuits, you know, the Jesuits went to Tibet and even translate in the 14th century, translated the Bible into Tibetan. They couldn't get a single Tibetan. They gave up, you know, what to do. So it was kept intact. And that's why when I heard Lama Zopa talk, it might as well have been the 14th century. The disadvantage, of course, is we talk so differently, and why Lama was such a blessing. But the advantage being it was kept intact. It wasn't polluted, you know, it wasn't degenerated. So what I saw was, it was so clear. Here we were 15 years into, and these Tibetans coming out of there on the other side of the Himalayas, coming to the world. It was our job, now that so many Westerners were coming. So, and clearly, if we have the view of karma, we've been Tibetan in the past, and we made aspirations to be born in a good life with a good family where we could learn the Dharma. And sure enough, we got born into Australian wombs, English wombs, Swedish wombs. You know, look at us all over the world. So it was our job. It was our job to listen to the teachings and then find ways to express it in our language, not just chuck the baby out of the bathwater and just say what we wanted, which is so degenerate. And this is where Lama Yeshe was an amazing blessing. It made it possible to get to the essence of it. So, of course, the essence of all of Buddhism, the essence of this vast world view, which is what it is, which is what Lama Zopa was trying to describe to us, this world view. Lama was trying to get to the essence of it for us, which makes it very experiential. And that was, it's all about the mind, you know. Bottom line, this is about the mind. And like I always quote, this is indicated by the word Buddha. Bud implies the eradication of all delusions from your mind. Da implies the development to perfection of all the goodness. That's the job of being a Buddhist. So the reason for all this 25 years of philosophical study and analysis and metaphysics and all the rest of it, which seems so complex to us, which seems so, what is all the point of all of this? The point of all of it is to get finally onto your cushion, onto your seat. So to go into the mind and unpack and unravel the nonsense, remove the delusions and develop perfection, the goodness, and become a Buddha. Bottom line. So Lama made that available, you know, Lama made that, you know, I'm sure I wouldn't have stayed around but for Lama. So that's my feeling, was that's our job in the West. Here we are, we're this bridge, you know. So you can't just chuck the baby out of the bathwater and make a new Buddhism because you think it suits the West. We've got to internalize first these holy beings, what they've been telling us, and then in our own way, from experience and practice, we can then present it. So that's what discovering Buddhism is, you know. The initial one, when it was done as it's either taught in different centers by different teachers, or it was done as a correspondence course, and 13 different Western teachers were asked, Western, I think mostly, foreign teachers, some were Chinese, I think, I'm not sure, were asked to teach the course as a correspondence course, you know. So I was asked to do the third one, which is the entire path, practicing the path. So, in fact, one of the things we're going to be doing is the course notes we're going to be using for each of these modules is the transcript of the teaching that each of these individual Western or foreign teachers gave, which can be, you know, used as a basis. I mean, I'll be giving the talk. So as far as I'm concerned, you see, I've decided, well, just to do three classes. Most of them are taught in 5 or 6, and I'm not being ridiculous here. But first of all, I try to keep it very simple to the essence of it. But secondly, I can't help but talk fast. I've noticed, apparently, I talk fast. I kept thinking when I get older, I'd talk slowly, but it doesn't seem to have happened yet. So I'm giving up waiting. So I'm not joking when I say, I always tell this story, and I feel stupid telling it, but it's kind of interesting, that Miffy Maximilian, the amazing woman who runs the spiritual program in our center in Brisbane, she's got bright pink hair. She's 6 foot tall. I've known her since she was a cute little blonde girl. She used to bounce in Lama Yeshe's knee. Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa were her best friends when she was a little girl, or Lama Yeshe. So, because her mother was running the Brisbane Centre. Now she's the spiritual program coordinator. So Miffy invited us one time. The Chen Raising Institute is the first centre in Australia, and the first major Tibetan Buddhist centre in the Western world, I think, after certainly for the FPMT. It was about the third centre. I think it was about the third centre after Courtin. Chenrezig Institute was established in 1974, and that's where I met the Lamas 2 years later. So anyway, Miffy invited 3 of us nuns from Chenrezig Institute, 100 kilometers up the road, to come and give talks, give a 90-minute talk each Tuesday. And they transcribed the teachings, and this is what I'm talking about. It's so stupid. I'm sure you've all heard it if I've told you before. And then they transcribed the teachings, and the 90-minute teachings, and the other 2 nuns were 8 pages and mine were 24. So in reality, I'm giving 6 classes, but I'd say it in 3, okay? I'm not being sarcastic or silly, but it's sort of silly. But it's also, it's okay, because I'm not going to, I mean, you can also teach each one of these topics in a 2-year period. You can take 5 years to teach it. So for me, it's to try and get the essence of it, to get the essence of the teachings. Will be 90-minute classes, get the essence of the teachings, and then the work is up to the students. You guys to study the material, to read the transcript if you feel like it, of the other teachers, of the, the correspondence course, and to read the other reading materials. It's up to how intensively you want to be involved in it. It's up to you completely, but the materials will be provided. So the idea is, the whole idea for me, I mean, I'm not sure I would thought I'd do it when Nina asked me, because I don't go through all the individual details. Many people give much more details than I do. I'm a bit lazy. But for me, the main thing is to try to get the essence of it. The main thing is to try to get the essence of it. To get the essence of the teaching. And then it's up to us to follow it through and study more seriously and go to the courses and study the basic program and do the philosophical stuff. But it's to get the essence and to get the overview. It's always utterly crucial for me to, this is what I was saying, I struggled so hard when I first heard Lama Zopa teach, to try and see what is the point here, where's the coherence? And this is the thing we've got to remember. This is the thing I always want to try and stress. If any body of knowledge is valid, whether it's music, cooking, or Buddhism, or acupuncture, if any body of knowledge, and I use those words carefully, a body of knowledge, if it is valid, then it first needs to be coherent intellectually. I cannot stress this enough. It has to be first coherent intellectually. And why? Because that's the level of mind we function at. We're not accessing our subtle mind. We have no idea what it even means. We've got to start with the intellect. Everything is like this. You learn the musical theories. You learn the recipes. It's all kind of hard concepts. Oh, wow, this is so complicated. 3 eggs, 5 this. It's kind of boring and complicated. But we all know it's the stepping stone to the experience. You can't just go to the cakes. You could, if you're really advanced, go to the flour and the eggs and just intuit things. You can't just go to the piano and intuit Bach, unless you've done it in a past life, like these little 3-year-old children on YouTube who are playing Bach, So you start with the head, and then through analysis, and that's why they talk about the first step in practice is to listen. Listen to the theories, the cake recipe. Listen. Then you think it through intellectually, you make it coherent, then you practice. And that in here isn't putting your finger on it, isn't putting your hands on a piano, isn't putting your hands on the stuff for a cake. It's at a subtle level of your mind, the penny goes, the experience, the knowledge goes from the head to the heart. That's listening, contemplating, and then meditating. It's the process we use to learn everything. There's nothing new about it. So if a body of knowledge is coherent, is valid, it's got to be coherent first intellectually. And that's the reason to want to listen to the whole view. So once you understand this, the Discovering Buddhism is just a variation of the Lam-Rim packaging. It's not just a series of 12 different modules, all with equal status in terms of the difficulty and the simplicity of the teachings. No, they go in a natural, logical, progressive order of not so much simple, because karma, which is the first one, junior school entry level grade 1 is learning about karma. Although we will start with the mind, because that's a crucial one in the West, because we think the mind is the brain, whereas Buddha's talking about something else. So we better know what we're talking about. So the first class is always about the mind. But in terms of the Lam-Rim, the very first practice is abiding by the laws of karma. So that you'll never give up. It's a junior school level, but you'll never give it up all the way to the Buddhahood. But you learn it first. And there's a logic to all of it. So when we see the experiential logic to the different teachings, and how they fit with each other, there's an enormous sense of kind of, you can relax now, because you can know where you are and you know the purpose of it. Whereas normally the biggest one is we see this great big bunch of information, like when I first heard Lama Zopa, and it was just incoherent to me. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. What is all this about? So when you can begin to understand the coherence of the overall view, the coherence of all the different components of the path, then you can just, you've got a map and you just follow the map, and you have confidence in each step of the way. You check, oh yeah, they said there'd be this. Oh yeah, there's that signpost. Oh, there's that signpost. And you keep going till you get enlightened. That's it, Or As the Dalai Lama says, if you get to a certain point and you discover that the Buddha's wrong, you say, thank you, Buddha, goodbye. So that's all I want to say. Ask me some questions. That was about 20 minutes, actually. Really not 60. That's really 60 minutes at my pace, okay? So go on, questions now, please, if you have any. And if not, that's okay.
You might want to raise your hand or write a question in the chat if you can't, if you are on mute, or prefer just to write it in the chat. Questions about the course in general, topics, anything. Otherwise, I'd like to start with, could anybody join if they're not even Buddhist, or is it also for a person who have studied Buddhism as well?
Well, I think that's the point of view of the center to decide that. But from my point of view, you know, anybody can come to anything. This is where it's so interesting. If you take the view of karma, that means we've got past lives, we've got karmic connections with certain things, and if you seemingly stumble into some teaching, you know, because you heard the word Buddha or heard the word something else, which is how I happened. I saw the name Lama Yeshe on a poster, then that triggered something in me, and I went to it. So that's fine. You can come to that. Nothing wrong. I remember Lama Zopa one time when he's giving a highest yoga tantra empowerment in Australia, he made the center put an advertisement in the local newspaper. I mean, he must have seen that there are some people who have karma to hear this, who need to see it, and the only way you're going to get them is through an advertisement. So there's different things. But on the other hand, you know, what is important is to remember, if you are taking it seriously, is to understand the coherence of it, and why one thing first, then the next, then the next. So then but it's up to the other person. And I've heard from you people that you don't mind if a person can come in at one level and just listen to one class, and that's just fine. So it's up to you guys how strict you want to make it. You know, it's a bit like if you go to university, you normally can't just walk into a postgraduate class unless you've done the earlier stuff. So very much that's up to you guys. But I'd say from the point of view of the person, I don't mind who comes to the teaching. I could say that, but in the end, that's really your decision.
Yes, and once Tara will present, she's the DB coordinator, she will present how it works with people, because we have two different paths for joining this course.
That's right.
I think it was just a question I often meet. And any other questions? Otherwise, I also often encounter a question when people decide to become a Buddhist. Is there some way you need a formal, like baptism and something when you start engaging in Buddhism, or do you need to? Yes,
of course, at some point, always. If a person's serious, just like anything, you can go to casual tennis classes, and then one day you decide you want to commit yourself. So you've got to find, you know, you commit yourself, and there's a certain thing you've got to do to commit yourself. So the same here, and this is where that's covered in the module. I suppose it's called Taking Refuge. I don't know what number module it is, but this is the logic would be, let's say in my own example, okay, I went to this class, I went to this course, two courses, 8 weeks, in fact. And, you know, and I started to, and I first, you know, my own side, I started feeling, even though it was very difficult for me in many ways, and also because I've been this radical lefty political activist and a radical feminist, it was just so shocking because it was so medieval, and the monks sitting in front of the nuns, this kind of business. So it was a lot of stuff for me to process. But at some point, it just seemed logical for me, that it seemed very clear that I wanted this to be my path. So the opportunity came with Lama Yeshe. He presented the opportunity for those who wanted at the end of the course to formally take refuge and take the 5 layperson's vows. So that was a natural next step for me. That's, some people might not want to do that. So and there's something good about that, because it's you know, we're creatures of habit and form and structure, and we want to have that. We want to have form and structure. So a formal ceremony is a very nice thing. It's very powerful. You remember it on a particular day with a group of people. You say certain things. It's like formalizing a relationship. It's called a marriage, or called whatever it is. There's something powerful about that for the mind. So yes, it's and if people feel like you start a daily practice, something in the morning, something in the evening. You tick the boxes. You do it, and so you feel like you're moving forward. We need things to help us do that, and there are those things for sure. And at some point, I'm sure in that course, we could certainly offer that opportunity if people wanted it.
Venerable, I have a question just about study. Could maybe you speak a few minutes about the importance of study and how it interrelates a bit with our practice and makes our practice more powerful?
Well, I mean, if we're thinking of music, if we were talking about music, We wouldn't, so reframe that question if we're thinking about this as a music course. And this is important, Jeff, it's important. I know you know what I'm saying, but now ask me the question, pretend this is a music course and now speak in terms of ask that question in terms of music and people will all hear it properly. Ask it again.
Why would I bother to study music? Why wouldn't I just play the instrument?
Sorry, what?
Why would I bother to study music? Why would I just not play the instrument?
Well, you wouldn't ask it like that. You'd ask me, Robina, please tell the people what's the importance. You've got to go home and do your homework and play the piano every day. Otherwise, how can you possibly practice? But you said, how can it enhance the practice? That's a contradiction in terms. How the hell can you have practice if you haven't studied? So that's what I'm trying to get at, Jeff. But that's how we think in the West. Oh, I'd rather practice than listen to philosophy, we say, as if they're separate. But that's schizophrenic. How in the name of God can you play any piano if you haven't done your homework and played and practiced the piano? Practicing the piano is nothing other than, studying the theory of the music. How in the hell can you practice it if you haven't studied the theory? That's the point, simple point I'm getting at. So, but we think in the West practice is closing your eyes and meditating and having a vision. And we think, oh, I don't want theory, I want practice. But it's schizophrenic to think this way. If you haven't, the point is, I remember one woman who came to Kathmandu years ago. She had cancer and she was trying to think of the meaning of life because of a wake-up call because she was going to die. And I took her to see one old Lama and she said, please show me how to meditate. And this is a very interesting point now about meditation. He said, oh, how can you meditate? You don't know any of the teachings. And that for us is weird because we think, I'm not saying you're saying this, Jeff. We think meditation is sitting down and watching your breath and having a nice feeling or calming your mind down. And I am being slightly sarcastic. But we do think that very strongly. And even the way you ask that question, in a sense, Jeff, implies that practice is separate from listening to the theory. But that's why that Lama's point was so clear. And she didn't understand initially because we usually have these misconceptions of meditation. So this is where now the meditation point. The word in Tibetan for the verb to meditate is the verb to familiarize. This is the word. When a Tibetan hears, go meditate on impermanence, we're not sure what that means, but they will hear, go and familiarize your mind with impermanence. It's a fancy way of saying, please go and think about, study, learn and think about impermanence. So go and do your homework on your piano is like go to meditate, meaning to familiarize your mind with what? With the theories you just learned so you can play that on the piano. So practice is the experiential application of the theories. There are techniques that help us concentrate. That's called concentration meditation, but that's just the beginning. You then use that in what they call the second mode of meditation, which is called insight or vipassana, but we get so confused about that. So in terms of music, you've gone to your class. And your teacher, if she's a Buddhist, she will say, now, Robina, I want you to take this information you've just learned here, and I want you to go home, and I want you to sit down, and I want you to do some concentration, the first mode of meditation, and then I want you to get to the second mode of meditation, and now with that concentrated mind, I want you to take the theories I've just taught you, and I want you to internalize them in your mind, and then start to practice the piano. That's what she'd say. So that's the purpose of meditation, is to familiarize your mind with what? The theories. Impermanence, karma, emptiness, bodhicitta, and they happen to be the components of the entire world view or how the world exists as far as Buddha is concerned. So that's actually what being a Buddhist means. Actually, what being a Buddhist means is buying into and familiarizing your mind with and eventually experientially directly having the knowledge of impermanence, karma, emptiness, bodhicitta, etc., etc., etc. So there can't be practice without first theory. There are other practices like visualizing the Buddha. You can do that. That's marvelous. You can say mantras. You visualize the Buddha. You watch your breath. But they're all techniques that enable you to finally do the actual job of unpacking and unraveling the neuroses and familiarizing your mind to be in sync with the Buddha's view of the universe. Okay? So if you don't listen, this is the problem. So in our world, people, we have the biggest mistake we make. We confuse, we conflate liking Buddhism with knowing Buddhism. So many of us have a strong karmic connection with the Dharma. We hear it for the first time. Many people in the world, millions of people adore the Dalai Lama, for example. Oh yeah, I love reincarnation. No, of course it's natural. Of course it's true. And because there's an imprint in their mind from the past life. And so many people who are called Buddhists, we call ourselves Buddhists. But we haven't got a clue how to present the Lamb. We've been hearing the teachings for 40 years. We would not know where emptiness fits, where karma fits, where this fits, where that fits, because we haven't studied it. All we say is we like Buddhism, but that's not enough. It'll run out, and next life you won't be caring. You've got to internalize it. So I remember very vividly. This is a shocking example, but it's a perfect example. And when I was at the resident teacher in 2010 in Tushita Dharamsala, in our center in Dharamsala for 1 year, one man I knew, very kind man, I've known him for years, was a monk. He came and he said he was applying for the teacher role after I left, because they get, teachers every couple of years. And I knew what he knew and what he didn't know. And I was very shocked that he thought he could actually apply for the role of being a teacher. And I didn't want to be rude to him. So I asked him some questions for him to hear that he didn't know the answer. So he could think, well, maybe I'm not qualified. But he didn't hear it. He couldn't hear it. And I said, well, then I had to be blunt. I said, well, sweetheart, or whatever I called him. I called him sweetheart. I said, if you don't know the Lam Rim, if you don't know where everything belongs, if you can't present the Lam Rim, if you can't present the teachings about karma, all the nuts and bolts of it, what it is, what it's not, how to do it, how to apply it, how to practice it, if you haven't studied the mind, if you don't know the mind and how to present it, if you don't understand emptiness and how to present it, how can you be a resident teacher here to teach courses to 50, 60, 80, 100 Westerners coming every month? He said, oh, I could read about it the night before. He was really delusional. But that's why in religion and spiritual, because we like Buddhism, we actually think we know it. It's the worst hubris you can imagine. And it's a serious, ignorant mistake. So if you don't know how to, so another example, one woman came and she was totally devoted, did all her practices every day, completely devoted. She'd taken highest yoga tantra empowerments. She had guru devotion. She was amazing in her practice. And we were discussing attachment. It was her problem. And I could hear from how she was talking, she didn't know what attachment was. I said, tell me the definition of attachment. Oh, I sort of know what it is, but I can't say it. I said, what is the answer to the question 1 + 1 is 2? Sorry, 1 + 1. She said 2. I said, you can say that. Would you say, oh, I sort of know the answer, but I can't say it. It means you don't know the answer. But with religion and spiritual, we get so mystical, so hippy-trippy, You've got to know the bloody words. Excuse me being Australian here. If you don't know the words, which are the expression of what's in your thoughts, how can you help somebody? You can't just say, oh, I know the answer to 1 + 1 is, that's really, I intuit it, It's just utter nonsense. If you can't say what karma is, if you can't say what the mind is and the words and define and describe, how can you do that? If you don't, I can just go and intuit what F major is on the piano. No, you won't. So this is something we really make the mistake in the spiritual. Huge misconceptions, Anyway, any other questions? Those are my main points I want to say. You don't need to hear more from me. That's enough.
Thank you, Venerable Robina. We knew that you could tell a story and isn't short of words, so how wonderful. And actually was thinking about Carol's question about lineages.
Sorry, that one?
And
that one?
it was different lineages, and perhaps it's something that would be answered during the course eventually, because it's a little more outside of the topic of the DB.
What was the question last? I didn't hear the question.
Carol, do you want to say the questions? So we're sure and how it.
Whose question is it? Question, sweetheart.
Hello, Venerable. Oh, thank you so much, dear ones. Thank you so much. Are the different lineages, are they relevant? If they are relevant, to remain faithful to one lineage, can you explain the pros and cons of listening to various teachers from different lineages, and how does that impact one's practice?
I understand exactly. I understand, Carol. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes, sure. I mean, in the world, there's hundreds of variations of the teachings of the Buddha. There's no question. Then you get to Tibet, there's hundreds of variations, So even in Tibet, you can argue there are roughly 4. There's the Nyingma, Sakya, Kagyu, and Gelug. But actually, if you analyze that over the centuries, there's so many variations even within each of those. So, but it's the same as any body of knowledge. You can say, oh, I love music. I mean, you can't get a broader category than music, but then then you can start. You can go to an African drum class one day. You can go to, you know, Indian tabla the next. You can go to, you know, Bach's violin the next, and that's wonderful. But we all know logically and naturally, as your interest gets more deep, you narrow, you end up narrowing down, and you finally realize you really want to focus on African drumming. Now, then, you know, as you really become an expert at African drumming, you learn everything you can, then you can expand again. And every time you listen to some classical violin, you learn more about music. And that's exactly how it is with the Dharma. Now, in my case, I fell into the lap of Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe, who are Gelugpas. I'd never heard of Gelugpas. I wouldn't know what a Gelugpa was from a monkey. But I fell into their lap. My karma was so clear. The very first teaching, right into the lap of my own lamas, and I became a Gelugpa. I didn't know the difference between Gelugpa or anything, but it was evident that was my karmic connection. But over the years since then, I've now got Kagyu lamas, Nyingma lamas, you know, Sakya lamas, and I find it marvelous to hear their teachings, because they're all essentially the same, Carol. If you've got valid teachers in all of those, they're all essentially the same, but they frame it differently. They emphasize different points. They put it differently. I know when I go to the teachings of Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, one of my gurus, when I first met him, and he taught the Madhyamika teachings, you know, the middle way. It was very, very different in many fundamental ways from the way Lama Tsongkhapa presented, but it was delicious. Now, the fact is, Carol, if I don't, let's say it's yoga. Let's say I've got no yoga. I don't understand the principles of yoga, and I keep jumping from one class to another. Well, they'll all tell me something different, the way to put my left foot. Well, I'll be completely confused, won't I? But if I've got one system that is my heart one, and then I listen to another one, that'll enhance my own practice and deepen it. So we have to know ourselves where we belong finally. It's not a question of being nervous and trying to choose it forcefully. It'll become evident as we study and practice. We will identify the ones that connect with us. We will identify the practices and the way they talk and how they, you know, so in my heart, I'm a Gelugpa, I'm Lama Tsongkhapa, you know, but I've got all these different other lamas in different traditions, and there's no contradiction. But if I didn't have a solid basis in my first one, I would be confused about the others. So that's the answer. Okay.
Thank you, Venerable Robina. Thank you for 30 minutes of presenting the course and taking questions. And
okay,
I guess we'll have a lot of time to discuss all of those details. Thank you, Carol, for your question. The next step would be that Tara would present the structure of the DB course, and the reason I'm not doing it is because as I'm the SPC, the program coordinator of LACSAM, but we've chosen to appoint Tara to focus on this, so she can also describe it even more to us tonight. And then, Robina, you are more than welcome to stick around. And
I don't think you need me though, Tara, do you? You don't need me around, do you, darling?
No, other than me to say thank you, and we are very blessed to have you. And before you do go, everybody you're very fortunate that we'll be able to have this teaching. Thank you, Venerable.
Okay, I'm so happy. And if you really need me again, I'm here, so you can just call me up and I'll come back. No problems, honestly. If you need me, have more questions for me before the end of the class, you just email me, okay? I'll be right here at my computer.
Perfect.
Really, if you want me even to the end, we can do a little dedication together. I'll come back then. What time are you finishing this talk?
We're finishing at 8 Swiss time.
How long is that?
In 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so why don't you call me 5 minutes before the end, and we can do our little kind of summary together, finish together.
Perfect.
If you want me, I'm right here. Do not hesitate, okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, darlings. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Lovely.
Yes, thank you, Tara. You're the one who can present.
Okay. All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. So yes, Venerable Robina, I don't know if it was your first time to hear her or more than first time. Either way, you're blessed. We're all blessed. So I'm going to go ahead and show us through the website a bit. I'm a DB coordinator. Also, Marcus here is a DB coordinator support assistant. We're kind of working together. And you might be able to see him in the gallery at some point. I know we have a certain view right now. What I'd like to do is go ahead and I'm going to share the screen, and I'm just going to take us to the website. There's a couple of clicks to go through, and we'll go through what the program is. So one moment, please. All right. Can everyone see the screen? You can see the Luxom main webpage. Okay. And everyone can hear me okay, yes? All right, thank you. I get a little head shake. So this is the main web page. What we're going to do is go ahead and just define the program. You're always going to go to our offering, and Discovering Buddhism is right at the top with Venerable Robina. And you may have already looked at the page. I assume you have because you did register. So if we come down here, we can see we had the open door session. I'm sure some of you did watch the video, a quick minute and a half video that she had. And then we had some information down at the bottom. I'm not going to read through the program at this point, but I wanted to point out that my email address is down here at the very bottom of the screen. So it's going to say, I'm just going to point that out in a couple places, just so you know you're going to be able to contact me if you have any questions at any time, okay? So it says down here, DB, and it's at luxom.ch, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up. We're going to go past the video, and this is really the main page here. As you can see, we have 4 tabs, all right? I'll mention real quick, right at the top it says open door session, and above that you can see that registration begins on August 1st. So technically we haven't opened the registration form just yet. When we do open the registration form, I will be emailing you again as I emailed you a couple days ago, and you will also have a notification that the registration form would be open on August 1st. So at this time, it's just not there just yet, okay? Now, I'm gonna go ahead, you can see there's 3 more tabs here. We'll just briefly look over. If you click on the course schedule, as Venerable Robina said, we start in the program on the left-hand side, it's numbered 1 through 14. There are 13 modules. I'll mention why there's a 14th in a moment. But as she said, it starts out with the mind and its potential. Okay, I'm not going to read through all of these, but just for example, a brief information on the program, on this module would be examine the mind and how it creates happiness and suffering. Okay, learn to transform destructive thoughts and attitudes to create a positive, joyous mind. So this is kind of the basic foundation. We'll start with the mind. Then we go on to, as you can see, how to meditate in October, presenting the path in November, and then the spiritual teacher in December. Okay, I won't read through all of them. If we go down through the page, you can see it goes all the way down to number 12. Is wisdom of emptiness. We heard Venerable Robina speaking about emptiness today. One of the terms in terms of meditating, meditation. And then on number 13, we have a brief introduction. It looks on Tantra. And we do have a special module here at the end. It says special integration experiences. And I'll give a little bit more information when we look at the next tab on that, okay? This is optional. And I'll mention it a bit more in a moment. One thing, so this is the 13, okay, modules, and there's brief information. If we come back up to the practical, this is kind of the heart. This is where everything is, my friends. So now the Luxom Discovering Buddhism, you see it says study paths, okay? And we have basically 2. We say we have total freedom path on the left and then certificate path on the right, okay? And either are optional. Now, the total freedom path, here we have, you can drop in at any time, no requirements, except bullet number 2. You do need to register one time. So after we do set out that registration form for August 1st, you will need to register at least one time with us so we can give you the Zoom link. Okay, so but just that register one time, then you'll get a Zoom link, and then yes, technically you can pop in and out whenever you want. All right. The lessons with Venerable Robina will be every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Swiss time. I know we don't have the time right here under the Total Freedom Path just yet. We will update that as soon as possible, okay? But on Thursday nights, it'll be Thursday nights, 4 Thursdays a month, starting with the first Thursday of the month, okay? 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. As she said, 90-minute session. And that's basically that's your teaching. You're having what was said as the first listening. Listening is one of the first steps that you do in learning about Buddhism and the study and the practice, is to actually just listen. You will also, after you register, if we go to the third bullet, you will receive, as long as you register, regardless if you do a path or not, you get the materials, okay? Everyone will get the reading materials regardless if you do the total freedom or the certificate, all right? So basically though, the materials also will be sent by an email, which will also have a link that kind of has a secure access. We won't be posting the materials directly online. You will get the link through the email. So it's more of a private, secure access to the reading materials. All right. Now, the next bullet is saying that we do have the 13 modules, which I just went over a second ago. It also has a completion. If you would like to do the completion of the certificate or individual modules, like you can do all 13 or you can do only one. And if you want to do a module for a badge, they get issued at the end of the month, okay? And let me go ahead and switch over to the certificate path real quick, okay? So we'll just go to the left here. And basically the certificate path, what's the difference would be, is it is kind of saying that you do plan to actually do more of the study side of the module. And for example, the reading materials, we would give an assessment at the end of the month. After the last session with Venerable Robina, you would have an assessment. It's a nice, easy, a question, questions that are short answer that you could fill out. You'd have a couple weeks to return it, email it back to me, all right? One thing I didn't mention under the Total Freedom Path, and this applies to the whole program, we're meeting with Venerable Robina on Thursdays. And then every Tuesday, you have what's called an intensive, my apologies. I think I just used the wrong word. You have what's called Together on the Path every Tuesday. Now, let me go ahead and put this together, why this is very important. As Venerable Robina said, we first listen to the teachings. You listen. You will be given the readings. So I'm kind of a study person, sorry. I would suggest, like, after the teachings, maybe read through the readings before you come to a Tuesday session where you get to have a meditation practice on the topic of that week. All right, so basically that's kind of the integration and making the coherence of the study and your learning, is that you have the listening from the teacher, the lineage, the teaching, and then in between Thursday and next Tuesday, maybe you can squeeze in some time and do a little bit of reading, so you can get that a little bit of the academic side, the philosophy, so you can kind of get the imprints on it. And then basically come on Tuesdays, and then you'll have meditation practice. And also a discussion group, by the way. So it'll be open for questions. I think that's the good part, right? Okay, so you'll also have it open for questions. All right. Now, so basically, when you register, no matter what, you can just sign up and you start coming. You can come to Tuesday and Thursday. Then on top of it, once a month, we have an intensive practice day, and that will be the last Sunday of every month. Okay, the last Sunday of every month. We'll have a one-day practice day, intensive practice day of meditation, And in general, right now, the full program has not been set up, but it will be, for example, like from 10 to 12, and then we take a break, and then from 2 to 4. I think I got that correct. Okay. And that would be once a month. All right. So basically what the program is you have Tuesdays, we'll have teachings from Venerable Robina. Tuesdays, you have meditations with our Lagsam volunteers who are trained in each area. They each have kind of specialties of meditations that they prefer and they practice more. And then once a month, we can all come together and have a meditation on the last Sunday of the month. All right. Now, let me kind of tie it together a bit more. Along this certificate path here that's on the right-hand side, right down here, it says requirements to receive a module badge. So if you were kind of gonna, go ahead and practice with us a little bit more and you'd like to get more in depth with your studies and your meditations, you may as well, maybe give it a try and go for the badges. And that would mean that in one, you would have participated in all 4 Thursday teachings, or, my friends, or watch the recording. Okay, so it is definitely possible for you to watch recordings. All the sessions are recorded, by the way. Okay, all the sessions are recorded, even tonight is recorded. Okay, but for the badge, for the module, you would participate in the 4, either by coming and listening to the teachings live with Venerable Robina, or you can listen to a recording if there happens to be a time you cannot come join us. And then we also would ask that you would do at least 2 of the Tuesday sessions, okay, with our team, and do some meditation practice and discussions, at least 2 out of the month. And then it says also that you completed that 1-day intensive day practice. Okay, I said that we're going to have 1 day that you would have an intensive day practice. And then also you're submitting the module assessment and you completed all the readings. Now that assessment that I would email to everybody after the 4th session with Venerable Robina, at the end of the questionnaire, there'll be a little assessment, real easy, where you can just check in a box. Yes, I did that. I did bullet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all you got to do. And then you're done. And you email it back to me. Okay, that's all you would need to do. And let me go ahead and move on. I hope I'm not speaking too quickly. If everyone's okay. As I said, this main page is it. This is kind of the only place we need to be for all the information. Now, in terms of the donations, if you were going to do only one session at a time, it would be, as you can see, there's a 0 there. Yeah, that's correct. It's 0 to 30. Okay, so, or you could also do a monthly subscription, $150, or if you wanted to do a one-time donation for the entire year, you can do $1,500. If you are a Lagsam member tonight, if you already are a Lagsam member, and of course volunteers, we have some of us out there, of course we're automatically included. All right. And now right below this line, you can see for supporting us and helping us with the donations, they do have a button right here. I'll go ahead and click it right now, just so you can know that it just goes directly to, I tend to use, there's PayPal right here. Okay, so you just basically make the donation right there. And I'm going to go back one page. I think it opened. All right, you just basically go right here. And of course, no one will be turned away if you don't have the funds. And also, the people who can support us, we greatly appreciate it, because the center is, of course, run on, we volunteer, and there may be some needs that they have in the for the facility in Zurich. And it really does, of course, help out. And the donations also partially go to our teachers. depending on, you know, right now, of course, we know that they're not physically traveling here, but they are online, but the donations basically go to support the center only. Okay, so we greatly appreciate it. And let me see, of course, as we see it's on, there's no prior knowledge needed. We discussed that. That was a good question of Lars. I'm glad he brought it up about reminding us, do you need to be Buddhist or not? No, it doesn't matter. As you see Venerable Robina, you know, doesn't matter. You know, you're basically going to sit down and you're going to listen. And I'm telling you, that's exactly how it was for me. I sat down and I listened and I didn't stop listening. So that's just the way it works. I will come back up here to the top of the page. The only other thing to basically show you is, yes, we have an announcements tab, but this announcement was, of course, as you see, just introducing the open door session for tonight. I'm sure we'll be changing this announcement, you know, later, but if there is anything important, we will put this here. Other than that, let me scroll down. I took all these nice notes and I kind of didn't necessarily follow them. What I want, well, I did follow them. It did go in the right order, but let me go ahead and come back to the practical information. I wanted to also then show you again that my contact information is down here at the bottom. So if you have any questions, you can please contact me, and my name is Tara. I'll reply to you. Okay. I like email. I'm good at email. And you can ask anytime. I am also located in North Cyprus. So I'm at a 1 hour difference. Not that that's going to make much difference for most of you guys in Europe. Maybe a couple of the people in the States. It is a 1 hour difference, but I reply fairly promptly. Okay. If you have any questions. And other than that, I think I'm going to go ahead and you may have, does anyone have any questions right now? Or actually, I think
there's already one in the chat. Maybe the person who wrote it would like to ask. Otherwise, I'll read it.
Sure, Nina.
Yeah, I was wondering whether the sessions on Tuesday and for the intensive meditation day, whether they will be also recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, nice, thanks.
I know. I'm telling you, since we've gone, the opportunity that we've had was studying online. I'm telling you, we are so blessed. And with how the life schedule goes, I work too. I'm a teacher also. There's some things that I've had to miss, and it's a blessing that things get recorded.
Yeah, that's true. It's really great.
Yeah. Let's see, and I'll look in there in the chat
There's
box.
one more in the chat. Perhaps you want to ask the questions, otherwise I'll read it out aloud.
Yes, please. Can you read it? I'm looking, but I'm not seeing.
Otherwise, all right. Would you want to read it out? You're on mute.
Is it Lewis? That's a good question. Is it Lewis?
I'll read the question before you answer.
Okay, I was having trouble. I'm sorry, I was having trouble finding how to unmute, but I think it said when I read it on the Sunday meditation that you can do it individually, and I was wondering how that worked.
This I may need a little bit help with, Lars, on the individually part.
Yes, I can help.
Nina?
Yes, for those who don't know me, my name is Nina and I'm the coordinator of the Laksam group who's putting up this Discovering Buddhism. So Louis, the plan is we will record all the meditations, that we will be guiding the meditations here in the Laksam Center, and also for all the online students to join us live, so to speak, but we will also make recordings of all these, and there will be instructions provided to those students who want to do it individually, how to go about it. And the idea is that every Discovering Buddhism course has 4 meditations which will be practiced on Tuesdays, and then this intensive practice day is to one more time kind of take us a little bit out from our daily life and to practice the meditation just one more time for ourselves, with the hope that with this practice, we will be then able to do it on our own, maybe on the cushion someday in the morning and so on, because there are very valuable, amazing meditations that we'll be doing throughout the course. And those who cannot do that will get instructions. It's recommended to do it in silence. So even if you're home alone or can arrange with your family to give you a little bit of space for one day, if possible. If not possible, of course, nobody will check or police that, but that's very helpful for own meditation practice to have a little bit of silence and a little bit of time out, preferably to try to do it all in one day, but you can schedule this day if you are doing it individually on the day that suits you best. And then you are free to either use descriptions or transcripted. The meditations will also come as transcripts if that's what you prefer, or you can follow the guided meditation from the intensive practice day that was guided in the center and just follow it on your own on some other day. Does that answer your question? Or?
Thank you very much. It answered my question completely.
Thank you. I would also like to add the Tuesdays to get on the path is actually in two parts. The first one, an analytical meditation based on the topic that Venerable Robina had presented that Thursday before. And the last part of the Tuesdays will be a discussion, and it's also very important to discuss and actually rephrase the teachings. So it's not only passively listening to the teachings, but also engaging actually and finding out what you know. And as a Venerable said, can you also name what is 1 + 1? So it's not only like this passive understanding, but actually engaging. And we're already doing those Tuesdays, but not based on the Discovering Buddhism yet, but they will be from September. So they're actually equally important to join. We have a raised hand. I wrote the name in the chat.
Katrina.
Thank you. The intensive practice day, will that be on site as well? Like in the center?
Right.
Yes.
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 So for the possibility that I'll be back in Zurich, I can pop in. That would be really nice.
Yes, you are so invited, and anybody, if you guys want to make a short vacation, Switzerland typically is very beautiful. At the moment, very wet and rainy, not like Tara, we are picking with jealousy at your shared screen with 34 degrees and sunny. So at the moment, that's not how it is in Switzerland, but if anybody is passing through Zurich or would like to pass through Zurich or come for an intensive practice day, any of you is so welcome and invited, of course.
Thank
and
you.
We will try to make also, because Katarina has a background from our center, and so do Tara and Lars, we will try to make it available for all the Discovering Buddhism students. So even if we are sitting anywhere in the world, we could still feel at least like we are in the center here.
Lovely. And another question, when we can't watch the live teachings and we watch the recordings instead of the teaching or the Tuesday meditations, how do we let you know that we've done that? Is it just by email, sending an email, or how
You
is
will.
that?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you do the certification program, when I send out the email with the assessment, there's going to be some questions that, short answer questions that you would answer. At the end of the form, there's going to be a little tick off list. Here, actually, let me go ahead and share the screen again. You're going to tell us then. So for example, right here, if you can see the screen again, it says requirements to receive a module badge. You participated in all 4 Thursday teachings. You participated in at least 2 Together in the Path on Tuesday and 1 intensive day, and you've done the readings. I'll have a little box at the end of the assessment written exam that you're just gonna go, yes, 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 yes.
Marina, we will just ask you, and whatever you answer, we will believe. Because
yes.
Okay, so it's all based on trust. That's good.
Well, it's when we get to the karma module, you guys will understand.
Okay, fab. Thank you very much.
There will also, after the presentation from the two alumni who will present what they gained from this previous time of the course in Laksam, there will be more time for questions if something pops up. You may always write it in the chat, and if by any chance you remember your questions after the session has ended, do write Tara. Nothing is too important. She's ready. As you can see.
I have no problem with questions. You can email me anytime, friends.
Oh, there's one more in the chat from Nina.
What are the badges for?
Yeah.
Good question again. Sorry, I guess I keep sharing the screen back and forth. So the badges, basically, yeah, let's go ahead and look at this again. So you can get a badge per month. Okay, there's, again, we have the 12 sessions, 13 sessions. You can get one badge per month, and each badge per month basically is these qualifications down here. Now, okay, and that's a badge. But if you want, and actually this is a good question because now I realize I didn't mention it. We come back over here to the certification path, and we're going to look at this bullet number 2. And it says, so if you wanted an actual FPMT Discovering Buddhism completion certificate, okay, the actual the Discovering Buddhism completion certificate, you would need all 13 badges. Okay, that's the number 1 qualification. And then the next qualification would be this special integration experiences of module 14. I mentioned this module 14. Let me come back to the course schedule. If we scroll all the way down here to the bottom, this is at your discretion. It's optional, but you would do it if you were, well, I guess you could do it even if you weren't going for the discovering the badge and the certificate, but you could do it anyway. It says here, we'll go through it real quick, by undertaking intensive practices of purification and a 2-week Lam Rim retreat, you prepare your mind in the best way to realize the path to enlightenment. Purification practices include 100,000, don't panic, please, 100,000 prostrations, 3-month Vajrasattva retreat. If these terminologies you're not familiar yet with yet, they will be explained. And then a night, if I pronounce it correctly, Nanya. Okay.
Nanya, yes.
Thank you. And this is a great way to seal the blessings of your program. So at the point that you're involved in your studying and you're practicing, we will have more material on this at a later date to be able to post with the materials that we will email to you. It is at your discretion, and as I recall, it's not like you need to complete it right after the last module. There's like a little period that you can do it. And if Nina, if there was anything else you'd like to say on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, I can maybe speak a little bit to why you would even want to do it to start from, because I don't know if Nina, that was your question.
Yeah, I was wondering why I would need a certificate. Is this something I would need to continue in the end, or?
That's a very valid question, Nina. So let me try to explain it. So Discovering Buddhism is a formal program that has been around for the last 20 years or so from FPMT. So it's set through the organization Foundation for the Preservation of Mahayana Tradition that our group belongs to. And of course, Venerable Robina spoke about Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who started this organization. So this program is recognized and designed through FPMT, and there are some students who maybe started the program before and maybe did some modules already and have already completed them and are looking to finish it, so they would need maybe some module badges only. Maybe they are missing 1 or 2 modules to complete the program. And then those who are going for the whole kind of certificate from FPMT, kind of to formally get this recognition that they are students who completed this structured FPMT program called Discovering Buddhism. They are also asked to finish that module 14. There is not set time for it, so it's really completely up to you. You can do it, you don't have to. Whatever you feel drawn to, your karma calls you to, or whatever we want to call it, it's your decision. And if somebody is then interested, then that is one of the things that FPMT asks if somebody would be interested to get registered also as FPMT teacher sometime, maybe in your life in some years or something like this. Maybe you want to also teach some of those topics. Then that's one of the FPMT's requirements, that you completed the Discovering Buddhism program. So for some people, it's very desired and they are doing that. Others just want to do, the total freedom and maybe pop in some modules, do some things, do for their own benefit, look at the assessment, but maybe don't even want to get the badge or whatever. Both are perfectly fine with us. It's really completely centered on what you desire, on what you want. We just offer it and you take whatever you feel is necessary or suitable for yourself. Does it answer more or less, Nina, your question? Or
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We do have one more in the chat. Do you want to say it out, Louise, or please unmute yourself?
What, hold on. Question I have is, what if you're physically incapable of doing a full on the floor prostration?
Louis, I think for prostrations, there will be specific teachings even provided. So we will have a program kind of going separately for those who would be interested in doing part of the whole module 14. We will try to provide more information about it, and there will be a whole session just on prostrations. But to answer your questions, there are many of us who are physically not able to do the prostrations, and that's fine. The prostration is a symbol of greeting, showing respect to the Buddha as a teacher, and also to our own nature of Buddha, because we all are striving to become a Buddha. So we are not prostrating to something out there, but also to our own potential. That's the idea for the prostration. We do it with our body and with our mind, and I'm stressing the mind here. I think mind is more important. So if the mind is on the beach and the body is doing prostration, we're not doing the prostration. However, the other way around, the mind is doing the prostration, but the body can't move the way that the Tibetans prescribed it. It's perfectly fine. So one way to do it, if somebody is able to do it with their hands only, then there's a way to do it with your hands only, and that is full prostration 100%. Or even there are some of us who not able to do that, then it's also perfectly fine to just in our mind to do the prostration and visualize it, because it's really the mind which is involved in the prostration.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have one more hand up. So Jennifer, please ask your question.
Hi, I'm wondering about how the retreats are handled, the quote unquote retreat parts.
So
for the certificate path.
The retreat, so we have the intensive day, that's basically on 1 day a month. And is it, did I misspeak earlier, the 1 day a month, Lars, that's the last Sunday of the month, correct?
The Sunday after the last teaching in the month.
Yeah, the Sunday after the last teaching.
So it won't be the last necessarily Sunday of the month, because that would be 5 weeks.
So we will have more written up on it, but it will be on site, as we heard Nina say earlier. The on-site trainings, like Tuesdays, are on site and online. So this is the same thing for the 1 day intensive day. It's also on site and online. So
You're asking about the Vajrasattva retreat, like the 3-month retreat. Is that the question for module 14, or were you asking about intensive practice days?
I'm asking about that the 2-week Vajrasattva, 3-month Vajrasattva retreat and the 2-week Lamrim.
my apologies. Can you explain again then, please, Nina?
Yes, I don't have much to explain. The answer is we don't know yet. So I don't know that we will be offering anything specific on that, because you basically have your own life to do it. So there are many centers. For example, Courtin Monastery offers a 3-month Vajrasattva retreat that anybody can join every year. Typically, now with Corona not possible, but generally every year that's offered. And other centers may offer other things. And it's also, as far as I know, with FPMT, it's an honor system. So ultimately, when you apply for the certificate with FPMT that you completed the entire Discovering Buddhism program, you would show the certificate from Laksam that you completed the 13 teaching and study modules that we will offer. And then on your own accord, you also acknowledge that you did all those requirements that are required for module 14. And based on that, FPMT issues the student a Discovering Buddhism certificate.
So would it be, if you can't go to a physical center to do the retreat, are there going to be guidelines for how to do that at home?
Yes. So we will provide separate teaching sessions just for people who are interested in that module 14. They won't start at the beginning because I think many people might not yet know whether it's something interesting for them or not. So they will probably start kind of the 3rd, 4th month of the program when we start offering those probably weekend and also recordings. There's also a handout for people, so with descriptions of what is recommended, how to do it, when to start, and how to organize yourself and stuff like that. So more information will come on that part.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's would be a nice time for having the 2 alumni, past alumni, Sabina and Andrea. We did have had the Discovering Buddhism at Laksam, 2 seconds. Yeah. Prior to this one, but now it's the first time with Venerable Robina. And I would like to Sabina and Andrea to come and talk about what did they gain from doing this course before, and just share their memories. And afterwards, you can ask questions if you have some. On the spotlight. First, here we have, and Sabina, here we have her. Yes. Thank you very much. Andrea and Sabina, you've been at the course before. Please talk about it.
Yes, okay, so I start, is that okay? Okay. I came to Buddhism a few years ago when I was in India. Actually, I came to Buddhism through meditation, through doing a yoga teacher training. And soon I found out I liked the asanas, the practical side of yoga, but I really was hooked to meditation. I just saw the potential of it. And at that time, someone told me about this 10-day course, Introduction to Buddhism, which is held in many, many centers, Buddhist FPMT centers around the world. And somehow I just knew this is what I have to do. And I joined one of those courses in India, which was kind of 50-50, learning about Buddhism and meditating. And yeah, something clicked. I knew I found home. So as soon as I was back home, I started to Google to find a group, because I knew I wanted to continue on this path, but I also knew I wouldn't do it on my own. I wouldn't keep studying on my own. And it was the perfect timing, because Laksam had just started then. There was only a handful of people back then, was like mostly, yeah, Nina and Jeff and Teres and maybe 2 or 3 more people. meeting every Tuesday. So yeah, there was maybe 5, 6 of us meeting every Tuesday to do this Discovering Buddhism program. So back then we were just sitting together, first meditating and then listening to a recorded MP3 teaching. And afterwards we would discuss what we heard and also see how that makes any changes to our daily life, like how to implement what we heard. And this I find a really, really important point, that we have these discussions, because otherwise meditation, both I feel is really important, the meditation, but also to learn about Buddhism, the teachings, but it can get a bit dry or can get a bit theoretical. So for me, it was extremely helpful to have this group to discuss on how can I implement this in my daily life, or if I faced challenges in daily life, how can Buddhism help me? And yeah, it really, I mean, it became the most important thing in my life. That sounds maybe really dramatic, but it helped me so much just to deal with whatever kind of challenging situation came up. To me, Buddhism, is like a toolbox, and whenever challenges come up, I can find somehow some kind of tool to deal with it, to deal with difficult situations, difficult teachings, but also to deal with my own crazy mind, and to know that I'm not alone in this path, and to be able to share with other people. I found this extremely precious. Yeah, I think that's it. You can ask questions later on if you want to know more. Otherwise, I pass on to Andrea. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then. Can I continue, or shall I continue? So
you need to turn up the sound, Andrea, a little on the low side.
What I should have to do?
That's okay. Now we can hear you.
Ah, okay, sorry. Okay, so we have done this course at LAGSAM, and it take about 3 or 4 years, and I personally took it very seriously. I have done all the readings, I have done all the exams, and I'm still missing all these practices in the module 14, but I'm working on it. And so it helped me personally a lot to improve my life with this view, and also not just this knowledge, but also especially these practical methods. And for example, it helped me that I can kind of close my path, my past. You know, there were many things in my past, kind of political injustices, what my family went through, and it helped me kind of a little bit understand more and accept it. And especially my mother, I mean, she passed away about 11 years ago, but she suffered a lot from her second cancer. It was very tough, with a lot of physical pain. And it also helped me, these practices and this knowledge, to myself to get through this, to understand it a little bit more. What is also, I find it very important that nowadays this whole world is for me a little bit sometimes too much about environmental issues, about the COVID, about the political situations and everything. And it also kind of is helping me to find my balance, my calm mind, to not to be so kind of afraid, and especially it also reduces the fear for me, and of course also brings joy, but especially that I'm more balanced. So as I'm not as used to be, but I think as the whole world is kind of getting crazy, I'm still pretty much balanced, and it is very interesting. And it did not just happen, kind of affected me, but I have affected all my family. For example, we are not kind of killing any type of animal, even the small insect in our house. And my kids accepted very fast, and they like to do this also. And they are also interesting how they are giving this knowledge further to their school people at the school. They also say there that you don't have to kill this small insect. This is also life, and respect any type of life. And we have a practice with my younger son every evening also, that we are getting through the day, checking what was good, what he done good that day, then say yes, keep going on. What was maybe not so good, maybe he was cheating or lying or aggressive, then we kind of try to a little bit remove this habit, and to kind of get a better habit slowly to go to a better direction. And I mean, he likes this practice very much, because he's asking every evening. Sometimes I say that, yeah, you can do it on yourself. And he says, "Oh no, Mama, would you please, can we do it together?" Yes, of course we are doing together then. And also, what is interesting that, so my husband, he was very much against this thing that I'm doing so seriously, learning, studying, taking the exams. And after a while, he also said that it is not at all difficult to, for example, just to move an insect outside and not to kill it. And just a few weeks ago, he told me that Andrea, these teachings opened his eyes a little bit. And I really appreciated it, because he did not really understand why I'm doing this. And last, what also helped me to clearly see my goal, because I always had a goal in my life, kind of feeling and whatever, but this teaching, this knowledge totally cleared this kind of I don't know, insecurity or what, but I know exactly where I am headed for, and I would like to reach that thing. Yes, and that's it.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Sabina. Do you have any questions for either? You can write them in the chat or raise your hand.
I would like to add one more thing. You know, the best about it is that no one can ever take this from you. It's so precious. And I saw a lot of people struggling last year with the lockdown and everything they would normally do, like going to the movies, to the fitness club, and it all started to be taken away. And just to have this direction, to have these studies, the meditation, there's something really precious that no one can ever take from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? No. And we actually do have more time for questions again. So if you have any questions to Tara about the course itself.
I think Katrina raised her hand.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Yay!
Venerable, we just have one more question from Louis before we can go to you. Go ahead.
Go.
Well, Venerable Robina, they were asking about a possibility of doing lay vows, and I was going to tell them that I took lay vows with you on Zoom with the Australian Center, and so it's very, very doable on Zoom.
That's right. And we've done it already at Zurich as well, haven't we, people? We've already done it here. That's right, Lou, exactly. Perfect. What else was there?
Yep.
Something else?
I think
No?
that was the questions, and we're ready for your words for today. Closing up. Unless we
Okay.
wanted to answer some questions.
No more questions? Any other question? Anything at all? Nothing. Well, I think just it's
We can
marvelous.
There were questions about maybe the refuge, if we can persuade you to do that. Eventually, once we
No,
step
nothing to
forward.
say about it. When the time comes, it'll be fine. Nothing to say about it. It'll happen organically. So if people are feeling that they want to become formally Buddhist, just have in your heart the aspiration. When the time is right, may it happen that I can formally take refuge and take the lay vows. So let's make it like an aspiration in the mind. And when the time is right, it will happen. Everything starts with the mind. As Lama Zopa says, everything exists on the tip of the wish. So have the thought first. The internal is always the first cause. Okay? I have nothing more to say, you people. You're doing great. Just keep trucking, keep moving. So marvelous that Luxem is doing this, and so wonderful people are interested. So it's just keep moving one step at a time. And then the thing, and the main one is every word. Okay, the Buddha's teachings, every word of them, if you can't finally prove the truth of them, if you can't finally have the experience of that yourself, then it's clearly insane. In other words, if Einstein tells you a whole bunch of things and you can't actually finally prove it to be right, means you'll actually prove it to be wrong, then obviously you chuck it out. That's the approach to Buddhism. So the Buddha would say that our mind has this potential. Its job is to cognize. Cognize what? That which exists. So it's axiomatic for the Buddha that that which exists is that which can be cognized by mind. So it's up to us to develop our mind to that degree. And so to have that confidence and that approach to the teachings, treat it like your working hypothesis. It's not a question of blind belief. That's a superstition. Blindly believing that 1 + 1 is 2 you can manage, you'll get away with it. But it's not helpful until you know the truth of it. It's the same here. So remember that. That's the purpose of all the teachings. Even though it sounds esoteric and bizarre and strange, if there's reality there, then be patient, you'll come to it. If it's not, it's a load of rubbish, and say, thank you, Buddha, goodbye. Okay, that's it. Nothing more to say. So we can just do a little dedication, thinking how amazing anybody's thinking of doing this, how fantastic. And so may we continue to do this so we can develop our amazing qualities, so we can become a Buddha finally, so we can help others, just like our lamas, like the Buddhas. That's it, And be optimistic, be enthusiastic. And Lazami Yeshi says, we can look as often are accused of squeezing our brains. Well, I'm saying it's good to squeeze your brain, okay? Squeeze your brain, make an effort, and then you get the experience of the truth of it. So be patient, okay? Goodbye, everybody. Thank you, darlings. Much love. That's it, Lars? That's
Thank
it?
you, Venerable. Yeah,
okay,
that's it.
one.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everybody. Okay.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Now you go
Bye,
when you
Venerable.
want.
Thank
Forward
you.
to the course with you.
Very much. That's classic.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And any questions, don't hesitate to write them to Tara or to the center at info@laxam.ch.
Sorry.
And I also would like to announce that in 7 minutes from now, we're also doing a Vajrasattva purification practice. If you want to hang around and stick around and just join it, it's up to you. And besides that, any final questions, let us know. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at the course beginning in September. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a huge pleasure to see you all from so many countries. And well, it makes it all worth with doing a lot of organization that you feel pleased about it. Thank you very much. And otherwise, nothing left to say.
From my side also, just big thanks to Lars, to Tara, and to the whole team, because maybe it's not so visible from here, but we've been working very hard for weeks. This is the first this type of event that we've ever done. So we are very humbled and very hopeful that we will do well. If anything was missing or anything is missing, please don't get angry. Forgive us and let us know. We'll try to improve. Give any feedback you like. We would really like to make it as easy and digestible for everybody as possible. And from my side, just thank you so much for anybody and everybody, for Andrea, for Sabine, who prepared this beautiful personal story of theirs also and shared them so generously with us. And not to forget, if we worked this hard for the last few weeks and it ended up that we are just 5 of us sitting here and nobody joined, then it would be a very sad moment for us. So each single one of you contributed very much by being here today and showing interest in this amazing program. You made us really, really happy. So we're very grateful, and we hope and dedicate also this beautiful event that we just had together, that it contributes to all of us happiness. And through that, like Andrea said, usually when our mind gets different, then everybody around us experiences. So may this ripple effect kind of happen also in your families and in your hometowns and in our countries and eventually in the whole world. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.